A year ago, Labour said they'd inherited a 22 billion black hole. So they raised taxes by 40 billion and increased borrowing by an extra 35 billion. Now they tell us there's a 50 billion black hole. These lying socialist idiots have wrecked the economy. You remember that, don't you, when Keir Starmer's response to every single question about the Labour Party being about as good with money as Paul Merson when he's at Royal Ascot, was always, oh yeah, but the Tories left us a 22 billion black hole. That was his go-to response. Well, reading the Telegraph today is not good news at all. New stories are breaking about how weak the pound is, and essentially the British economy is circling the drain. So I was amused, reading about all these black holes, to stumble across this story on X, and I thought I'd share it with the rest of you. Rachel Reeves has dug a £92 billion black hole into public finances. Since taking office, Rachel Reeves has borrowed £92 billion more than forecast, blowing a hole in Britain's finances despite promising to reduce the debt. Now, I know what I think. I think that it's all part of a nefarious ploy to purposely crash the UK economy so Labour can go, oh, you know why you're all living off spam and rainwater? Brexit, that's why. It's because of Brexit. So we'll just have to go back in, won't we? Right, some shocking reading today on the Telegraph. I will cover that because obviously it's behind a paywall for many of you. And then I'll talk through this story. Jamie Jenkins has been on a lot of podcasts and stuff. He's an award-winning statistician. And to be perfectly frank, he's been a lot more right the last few years than the likes of Neil Fergatwat, who the government like to pull out and be wrong on international TV every couple of months. So he's worth listening to. We'll start with the Telegraph, though. Live, the pound hits a 2-year low against the euro as Starmer is under fire. And this is full of key moments that all look very bad for the future of British taxpayers, or indeed anybody who doesn't want to live off salted porridge and puddles for the next 5 years. Record demand for inflation-linked bonds, as investors placed over 69 billion on bids for UK debt syndication, which beat a previous record of 67.5 billion. Gilts have underperformed, thanks to additional uncertainty. The government borrowing costs have climbed again, as Starmer's fending off a leadership challenge, and the pounds fell as concerns are mounting over a plot to the Prime Minister's leadership. Sterling was down 0.4% to €1.13, its lowest level in 2 years, following accusations of a leadership coup by slippery little ratbag Wes Streeting. The decline in the pound came amid worries that a leadership challenge to the PM could lead to higher borrowing in Britain. Yeah, because who's going to replace him? And the cherry on top is that the net zero goals introduced by Millipede mean that Britain's going to miss out on any gas price crashes, because apparently it's mega important that northern Scotland reduces its climate footprint, while 1.6 billion Chinese eat through a rainforest in a day and burn enough coal in your average weekend to power all of Western Europe for a month. So you're circling the drain, ladies and gentlemen. I keep telling you, you're basically living in a third world country at this point. Robert Mugabe was a more gifted economic strategist than Rachel from accounts. So let's get to the really juicy story, shall we? Let's get to the story that explains why, definitely, in the next couple of years, you're going to have to go cap in hand to the IMF. The UK economy is going to collapse, and then they're going to say, oh, this was all down to Brexit, and then the sheeple probably will accept them going back into the EU, which was the plan all along. The globalist sociopaths demand that you're back in the EU, and even though they've been humiliating you and attacking you and smearing and slurring you ever since the Brexit referendum and laughing in your face, the general public, because they don't know anything, are going to vote, or at least keep their mouths shut, when they force the UK back into the European Union. And amazing. What they could never do with force, Napoleon couldn't land an army in the UK. The Royal Navy made sure of that. And at the Nile and Waterloo, we give the little bastard a good hiding. And Johnny Frenchman never tried it again, did he? But what they're going to achieve by subterfuge, because we are led by rats in suits, is the total domination, a soft coup of the United Kingdom, driven by self-loathing, slippery, spineless, socialist shitbags like Rachel Reeves. Oh, sorry.
She's a spastic.
Yes, she is, my closely shorn chum. Anyway, let's get to the good stuff. So, we've got a 92 billion black hole now. Amazing. let's get into the numbers. Since Labour took office, the UK government has borrowed around 92 billion more than forecast. Rachel from Accounts says she plans to reduce the debt, but the hard numbers tell a very different story. Before the election, the Office for Budget Responsibility projected that from August 2024, after Labour took office, to March 2025, the government would borrow £40.6 billion. It also forecast a further £62 billion for the first 6 months of 2025 and 26, giving a combined forecast of around £103 billion in borrowing over the 14 months from August to September 2025. The reality could not be more different. From August 2024 to March 2025, the UK government actually borrowed £94.6 billion, and in the first 6 months of 2025-2026, it borrowed another £99.8 billion. Together, that's £194 billion, some £92 billion more than forecast. It's not reducing debt, it's accelerating it. Around a quarter of the UK's £2.9 trillion debt. That's unbelievable. 3 trillion basically. And socialists say you're in a rich country. Imagine that. The average manky tramp currently shitting himself in a doorway because he's just done yet another tasty dose of methadone. He's got more money than the British government. He's got way more money because he's got 8 pence in his turd-stained tracksuit bottoms. You, because of the British government, have got minus 2.9 trillion. So you should be begging for money off them. The next time a bloke with a flea-infested one-eyed dog asks you for money, tell him, I'm skint, mate, you're much richer than I am, so cough up, take his cup full of change off him, and then, I don't know, wash his sleeping bag and see if cash converters will give you £1 for it. Inflation in the UK is higher than in France and in Germany, where price growth has fallen, and in the UK, persistently higher inflation is feeding into rising debt interest payments and therefore higher borrowing. And then the rest of this is all stuff that I've talked about loads of times. Putting employer national insurance up to pretend they haven't raised national insurance makes employers more poor, so they can't hire as many people, or they might fire you, or they might lay off on giving you a raise. Net zero spending's through the roof, and that's added tens of billions in new public sector commitments. And all the actual producers, people who don't work for the government, have been driven out, with thousands of millionaires leaving every year. And the best thing is, because they're absolute morons, they're doing it on purpose, right? They're doing it on purpose. The evidence for that was when they started talking about introducing an exit tax. Do you remember that one? Yeah, that one. This is the proof. This is the proof of what I'm telling you, that it's on purpose, right? An exit tax can only work. I know this is complicated, so bear with me. An exit tax only works if you keep it secret and then you bring it in before everyone exits, okay? I know that sounds difficult, but before you do something groundbreaking, something monumental that's going to have ramifications for everyone in the nation, maybe don't tell everyone about it 6 months before you're going to do it. I mean, that's kind of weird, isn't it? I know Rachel from Accounts is as thick as dehydrated whale spunk, but even she must know that in order for this to work, you would have to bring it in overnight while all of the rich people are still living in the UK. But if you tell the media 6 months beforehand, oh, we'll probably do this next year, all of the aforementioned wealthy people are going to piss off before you can bring it in. Aren't they, Rachel? So I refuse to believe this isn't on purpose. You are going bankrupt. Mark my words. Timestamp this video. The UK is going bankrupt. You'll be begging the IMF for a bailout long before 2029. All of the producers have left. All of the innovators and the entrepreneurs have been purposely hamstring. All of the rich people are fleeing because they told them on purpose months before they're going to bring it in. You are circling the drain. The end is nigh. Prepare to wander the streets with all of the immigrant gangs, mugging people and shoplifting if you want to feed your kids. And the downside is they get let off and they're allowed to do it because they've got a bit of a tan. You, the second you pinch a curly whirly from Boots, they'll have you manacled to the radiator in a dingy police station cellar while PC Bastard gives you a good shoe-in with the rest of the lads. It's unbelievable. So, again, not to sound too depressing, but if you've got the means, leave. If you've got any friends or relatives who live abroad, move. If you can't do either of them, start stockpiling rations in your garage because it's going to get rough. It's going to get rough. because they have to do it, because they've got this evil plan to get you back in the EU, and no people wouldn't accept it if they just did it after the referendum. So they're gonna make you go bankrupt on purpose. All right, that's my take. If you disagree, if you genuinely think even people as thick as the androgynous android rent boy and Rachel from Accounts don't know that you shouldn't tell everyone months before you rob them, please let me know an alternative hypothesis that makes sense. Please. All right, that's me for the day, ladies and gents. Like it and share it if you can be bothered, and I'll see you all tomorrow. Toodle pip. Cheers.